Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Well, the big news of the day is the custom haul. They detected, Sunday, and the news broke yesterday, of pump-action rifles, 661, an odd number, but 661 of them. And they went to great lengths to deceive. Understand the pump-action rifles were made from news reports, made in Italy, routed through Turkey, arrived here. I think there's even one country in between there. But the point is, this is dastardly. But before we continue, let's just play the report that we've been playing since yesterday, and then we'll come back to studio.
This one now carried 10 cartridges. It's one of the newest make in the design in operation now. So this one, if somebody has this, you can be sure how many lives will it take.
The Controller General of Customs, Hamid Ali, describing the massive destruction that can be caused if one of these rifles gets into the wrong hand. Explaining how the illegal consignment was intercepted, Ali lamented the audacity of the importers of the 661 pump-action rifles.
On Sunday, 22nd January 2017, the roving team of the Nigerian Customs Service Federal Operation Unit, while on information patrol, intercepted a marked truck along Mile 2 Apapa Road. The truck was immediately taken to the premises of FOU Zone A, Ikeja here, where physical examination revealed 49 boxes containing a total number of 661 pieces of pump-action rifles concealed with steel doors and other merchandise.
Concerns were raised over the fact that customs officers cleared the consignment out of the port before it was intercepted by officers from the Federal Operations Unit along Mile 2.
I have directed that the drag net should be wide open to fish out all persons involved in the importation and clearing of this consignment. Already the officers involved in the clearance of this container are with the controller FOU under detention.
Considering the number of containers that are imported into the country daily, questions were asked about the scanners that are not working at the port, especially when human error cannot be eliminated in the course of customs 100% examination.
Yes, we have problems with scanners. Most of them are not working. We are working diligently to replace them. Because of the unavailability of scanners, we have now compelled our officers to ensure it will be long, it's not going to facilitate trade as we want it, but for security of this country, we would rather go through the pains of taking every container at a time. Because if we had done everything diligently, probably this would not have left the port.
The customs boss says that 3 suspects arrested in connection with the prohibited importation will be investigated for more information. Ifunanya Eze, TVC News, Lagos.
Well, so there you have it. Controller General of Customs, Colonel Hamid Ali, retired, giving us the score. Worryingly in there, he said that an essential tool, scanners, are faulty. And so they're going to have to do it by hand, manually. I don't know how that's going to work out, but because even with scanners, you can't scan every single vehicle. You're going to have to still spot check. But the colonel there was referring to the effects this could have on relations and trade and all of that. But my guests in studio, thank you very much for coming on. Colonel Tony Inyam, retired, security consultant.
Thank you.
And Barrister Libros Oshoma, lawyer and public affairs analyst.
Thank you.
Colonel, pump-action rifles, we have 661. It's an odd number. So people have been speculating that there are many more than 661, probably. And since it is known that customs generally, around the world, tend to get only a part of things smuggled into any given territory, this is very, very worrying. Pump-action rifles, it sounds horrible, but those are very, very dangerous. These are not military-grade equipment, but can still wreak a lot of havoc, right?
True. I think I must begin by commending Colonel Hamid Ali, who, since the customs under his watch, he's tried to do his best to improve the customs. And gratitude to him that these things were eventually discovered by
a patrol.
By another patrol.
A customs patrol.
But what is worrisome is that, as you said earlier, the customs only get a percentage. Usually, who knows what would have gone in? And also, the odd number of 661. Usually, people make acquisitions either in thousands or in
hundreds.
But this figure, so we should be careful.
And then 49 cases.
We should be careful with that some other arms have not been passed through other avenues. But the crux of the matter, both in terms of the lack of scanning and the other thing, two things come to mind. One is that I have said over time that we need to have at least a tenfold increase of human intelligence agents to complement the uniform ones, because we are far lacking in the area of intelligence. We think once we see people in uniform, that is security. But usually, in most other places, there's always a ratio of about 10 to 1.
10 intelligence officers to one uniformed officer.
In the sense that intelligence here includes both civilians.
Okay.
And this is why I also think that, especially with the lack of scanning, and the fact that the governments or departments are at times very poor in maintaining equipments, I think there will be a need to outsourcing some of our intelligence to some elements of the private sector who, in competition with the public sector, will bring some competition, and by so doing create other avenues for cross-checking things and make the whole intelligence very effective. Intelligence is something that has been lacking, and I think we need more of that. And of course, we'll point out other points later.
When you look at this thing, Libras, thank God that we saw this for two reasons, basically. On the one hand, whoever nefarious character was the ultimate consignee of this stuff has been thwarted. But then the other reason probably is that we are now alerted that Wahala Day, even if it is the 661, we don't know what other container. After all, it was a patrol. It was a customs patrol. What if they hadn't patrolled at that particular time? So only Lord knows what else has gone through. People are beginning to speculate immediately that this is all about 2019.
Let me take our mind back a little bit. Even before now, last administration, if you remember, there was a time this same port in Lagos, a consignment of a container containing explosives and all of that were, impounded by the customs, and at the end of the day, there were stories of, oh, it wasn't meant for Nigeria, it was transiting, and, Another time there was a plane, that was intercepted in Kano with arms and ammunitions, and then the stories, oh, it was going to Chad and, the Russian jets, And so back and forth, at the end of the day, these issues died down. And now you hear, people say there's proliferation of arms, small, light arms and ammunitions. And with the effort of the Nigerian military in the fight against insurgency, you still hear that these people, you still hear the stories that come from there of them confronting our military, and all of these are the little issues that give rise and gives strength to all of these fights that we hear. And so for me, if we must be very serious about insecurity, just like we said in 2011 that no amount should be too much for INEC to put its house in order, no amount also should be too much for security. Because when the controller says, oh, they're having problems with scanner, and in this modern age where we also want to limit the time of doing business in our ports, most especially against the backdrop of, banning, some goods to coming in from the land borders, there's need for us to look inward and say, we need to fix, we need to be up to date with, if not, modern technology, but at least to a certain level of technology in our ports. 661, and like Connor said, usually, people import these things in batches, in thousands.
Indeed.
And also for the fact that this was impounded during patrol. Only God knows how many would have gone in.
Exactly.
And
Look, I'll tell you what, I got to go on a break now, but stay with, just sit tight because I'll be right back. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. Looking at the stupendous find of 661 pump-action rifles. The worry is that there might have been more than that, but thank God that we got this. And then this sort of, it's a reality check for us, just in case we didn't know. These things are going on. Colonel, coming back to you, I imagine, yeah, it goes without saying, all the custom officers on duty at the time and that were involved are probably going to be helping with this investigation, to put it discreetly. Sure. But in particular, they say there's an importer. His name is given in the press as Oscar Okafor. There's a clearing agent. His name is given in the press as Mahmoud Hassan, as well as somebody referred to only as escort. Sadiq, Mustafa. Those three, of course, are where they should be, helping the authorities with their investigations. But going back to the point that you've aired a bit and that the Controller General made, which is that the very tool that you need in any modern customs formation in any country, he admitted freely, and thank God for that, he admitted freely that we have problems with them. In other words, they're not working. There's no such thing, we have problems. They're not working. We have this problem too with the airports, in the airports. Doppler radar, I understand that one, essential as it is, they're not always working. I think all sorts of landing systems, there are times when they're not working. This might be a wake-up call that we can't have a customs that doesn't have the equipment that it needs. And I know that it's going to be a matter of scarce resources and prioritizing. But how do you prioritize security? How do you say security is expensive? If this had got through, okay, just speculating, totally wildly speculating, maybe there were two of such vehicles. One was not accosted in the patrol, one was. So it's always at the source that we can do the best job, and this is going to be a great challenge. We already have the bad reputation of Nigeria doesn't have a maintenance culture. Mm-hmm. I think in this change regime, we need to think about that seriously.
True. If you check, you will find corruption has a role to play here. Because if you check back, I'm sure, and I will say this strongly, that there's no way the customs would never have provided in previous budgets for scanning. So if you check, you will find that something has gone wrong somewhere. Even the cases you were citing of the airport, it's all corruption. People who should buy what they should buy, didn't buy. Now, coming back to the particular case of arms coming into the country, I think one area, this recent case where two military kind of helicopters were supposedly brought into the country. That to me says one or two things. And it informs me that when we were in service, the end users were never given by the NSA end users, if you want to buy, import anything, because I hear Governor Amechi talking of end users being given by NSC. For good reasons, the end users are given from defense, by defense officials, not by an NSA appointed by a political head. And remember, NSAs are personal advisors. They don't even go through even screening of the Senate. So to now give an NSA those powers to be the ones to approve end user certificates raises questions. The convention, when I was in service, was that it was given by a high official in Ministry of Defense. The reasons being that, and the convention, the practice universally, is that in terms of operations, any military official is independent of any intervention of even the president in carrying out its operations. This is why you would have seen the examples of why the FBI went and did what they did, even with Obama appointing the FBI. Now, what I'm trying to say is that when you now give NSA, you give the powers to authorize end users. End users are very important. They're the ones who authorize whatever you can bring to the country. When you now give those powers to a political appointee, a personal to the president, it raises a lot of problems in that, because I don't understand how it came about that helicopters, military armed helicopters came into the country and they were supposedly procured by
previous administration in Rivers State.
Rivers State. That is in itself is a problem. So what am I saying? We need to restore back, to bring back the authorization of end users to be apolitical, not partisan political.
Okay.
Dangerous.
Thank you very much. This is, Liberals, this point that is brought up here. First of all, well, we wouldn't have, I certainly wouldn't have known about it, but it's, as it has come up like this, one then begins to wonder that the whole fight against corruption, you have to be thorough, because this might have slipped between the cracks, and people who are not knowledgeable in such matters might not have known of the import of this. So there's a lot more work to be done. We're not doing badly. Let it be said. All efforts, all hands seem to be on deck, but it is a humongous problem and cannot be sorted out in a day. But there are going to be issues like this that can be sorted out. This is going to have to be thoroughly investigated because it's scary. Can you imagine arming 600 people with that pump action rifles like that? I don't know what police force there is going to resist them.
You see, I want to look at it from two folds. When people say Nigeria is a failing nation, Nigeria is a failed country, and we seem to back at them, but not looking at the indices that they are raising. Yesterday, or in the news now, you hear people calling on, others to defend themselves. When it gets to that issue of you defending yourself, it means the institutions that are supposed to defend you have failed in that responsibility. And that's why for some of us, we had consistently argued that the nature of corruption in Nigeria is not something that you can fight from one spot. So we need to decentralize the institutions to ensure that at the end of the day, the fight is holistic, is nationalized. We own it. Look at, we're talking about the custom. Look at the police also. Equipment failure.
Not to talk about intelligence. The intelligence community.
Tools to work with are not there. And so you see officers buy uniforms, officers having to fund their operations from their pockets. And at the end of the day, these are excuses. People will tell you, well, if I can do this from my pocket, I need to recoup. No, so we need to look at this issue holistically. And that's why somebody will tell you that it will take me 20 days to begin to search a container. But in the first place, you remember the first container that was impounded, that some persons, it was in the news that some persons had to use their personal phone to hire cranes to offload those containers to actually get to the bottom. Because without scanners, it's very important and germane. Without scanners, how do you get to the bottom if the equipment are concealed at the bottom? For example, you have cars at the top and then you have arms at the bottom. How do you get there?
Exactly. And in this particular case, other items, according to news reports found in the place in the container, included diapers, office equipment, towels, mattresses, drinks, toiletries, and
those will be used to conceal, camouflage the main item in the container.
Okay, another quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, please. Welcome back, and well, thanking the Nigerian Customs Service. They've done a great job, have actually, uncovered this smuggling operation, and we have 661. We would have liked to speak with the customs, anybody from customs, but that has not been as challenge-free as we would have liked. Mr. Joseph Atta, Assistant Controller of Customs and Acting PRO of the Nigerian Customs, has not been able to, in spite of entreaties, requests. At one stage, we even tried demanding, but none of it worked. Mr. Joseph Atta, Assistant Controller of Customs and PRO of Nigeria Customs, didn't seem to want to talk, so we're left to our own devices. It doesn't matter. Well, it does actually, but nevertheless, we shall see what we can do, because there are things that come out of this that really, and no doubt, of course, the president must know about this, but I think this is just asking for a reprioritizing of our options in this fight, which Libros had said cannot be from one center. It has to be all over. And then we have to, we can't send people out, so to speak, we can't send people into the ring with their hands tied behind their backs.
Quickly, sorry, Colonel. Quickly, on this issue, I had expected that even the acting PRO should be the one jumping from TV stations to radio stations this morning on these issues and expanding.
Mr. Joseph Atta.
Exactly.
Well,
but here, that's like typical.
Maybe he doesn't have permission for, how it is in government.
Yes, that's the problem.
He doesn't have authorization.
Our government officials and bureaucracy. You see TV houses and radio houses begging them to issue statements. And at the end of the day, when you now discuss the issues, they come someday to say, no, somebody was libeled. It baffles me.
It's a big problem.
We have a change orientation. We should change our attitude
because
to all of this.
This is the way it used to be. Government officials are reticent, we know, for good reason. But when a person is a PRO, as Mr. Joseph Atta is, when he's a acting PRO of customs, and this kind of a thing has happened, I mean, we had the boss. We had the boss. He was there. Maybe Mr. Atta is in Abuja and is a bit removed from the scene, is why he can't speak to us. But
this was the same attitude that we saw of Marilyn Oga when she was in DSS.
But this is a different era, and because
so
they're now asking all of us to constitute ourselves into some sort of an intelligence community, that it can't be left to the pros alone.
Sure.
Every little bit helps, especially in this era of security.
But you see, in asking people to participate, it's not enough to just mouth it. You have to put the structures to enable that. And what is the structures? Again, this over-centralization of power in one corner, it's a big problem. And it's a high time we realize that we need to give back, as it were, power to the people, so that governance can be much more thorough. I remember them on this issue of when you said this is a new wahala, as it were. It's not a new wahala. 2010, when Nigeria was initiated to bombing after the Chasoka incidents, I remembered a group of senior retired customs officers and clearing agents rushed to me that they would need access to the then NSC. And I asked them why. They came up with blueprints as to how they can complement, they can become the eye and ears of government because they are no more in service, so they can be more independent in giving advice to government. They came up with a plan how they can help government. One took them to the then NSA. They came up with a good plan. But what one found was that later, immediately after the plan was taken, because people wanted to make money, they shoved aside these patriotic agents.
And brought commercial replacements.
And brought people to replace.
Yes.
And those people carried on the processes in very mechanical way. Because they
didn't have the passion.
Yes,
it wasn't
yeah,
their
it
idea.
wasn't the idea.
Yes.
And not long after, we had this incidents that happened where things were happening in the ports. So what am I saying here? I think the customs could also rely on its retired officers, many of them who have experience.
So that's an option that we can consider.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lucky, calling in from Jos for holding on.
All right, okay, thank you very much, Oyori, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Laboros Agbero.
What's it?
Okay, now, just a quick one. I think the custom officers or the PRO has a lot of explanation to Nigerians. This consignment was duly cleared and left the port. Who were those that attended to this container?
Newspaper reports say that all of them are being seriously investigated right now.
That is number one. And number two, the custom must sit on top of their game. You see, they will import items from China, and then you have made in Nigeria, and yet they will clear them. You understand? Look at Nigerian wire and cable. They bring them in from China, and you have made in Nigeria on these items. And they pass to our custom.
Because the made in Nigeria cables are of the highest quality.
Yes,
so you import inferior from abroad and then slap it with a made in Nigeria cable tag.
You know, so that is the reason why they must be ready to do their job dispassionately.
All right then. Thank you very much for calling in. Again, he's going to the heart of the matter. You need absolute loyalty on behalf of these public servants. Patriotism and loyalty to not take a mess of pottage.
You see, in Nigeria of today, you can't demand patriotism and loyalty without putting the right things in place and also ensuring that the laws are implemented against those that are unpatriotic. You know, so the only way you can do that, there are rules. You empower those that are supposed to be empowered to do their job. Make sure they have the
which
right...
is not a habit we really have.
Exactly. Make sure they have the right equipment to doing their job. And then you ensure now the remunerations is okay. So you make sure...
So you enable these people as opposed to mouthing their assignment. Sure. Let me bring on Mr. YAQUB calling in from DOPEMU. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chief Jerry.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much. And God bless you once again. Because Chief Jerry, you see, we are in a deep mess in this country. Look at the number that you showed to us now. It's 661 now. That is all this number, right? If something is happening here, either some of these arms already in, or some on his way, because it cannot be this figure. Chief Jerry, I can tell you that. You see, there's a lot of conspiracy in our thoughts, Chief Jerry. Number one, Colonel Amit, I listened something earlier that the scanner is not working. How can scanner is not going to be working for custom that generating revenue to this country, Chibiori? And then he's not telling us that they already tell their personnel to work. Even though it's going to take them almost 100 hours, they should make sure they start everything that they want to start. Fine, all well and good. But you should remember these people are human beings like us, like Colonel Ali, Amit Ali. You have to make the job easier for them to be done it very well. Yes, they already arrest these people, but together I can tell you, I can't go on. You will never have anything about it because Lagos mentioned something earlier.
Last time this thing happened in Lagos, it happened in Kano. Did you know where the heading of that resort? Nobody knew. Now they are begging the custom officer, the relation public relations officer, to talk to Nigerians that we are paying salary to Nigerian taxpayer, and then he's refusing to pitch a call or to talk to Nigeria. What kind of country is this?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. YAQUB. We really appreciate your call. The patriotic zeal always burns in the man. Now, he was saying what you guys have alluded to, that when everybody becomes aware that there is no impunity and that what I am doing as a patriotic, ordinary customs officer, police officer, whatever, is not going to be thwarted by some big man saying, nah, forget about it, go and release him.
Sure.
Those are the kind of things that demoralize people want to work.
It's a great point. Earlier on, we're talking about demanding patriotism from people and all that. Very important as it sounds. But you know, I always believe that if you are in a place where you don't know your direction, where to go to, you say, you have to start from where you are. You cannot assume. What am I saying? I think this issue of extending whistleblowing to which the government is now putting in place should be extended to, if and that is what it goes back to my point of outsourcing some of these things to private sector. If other agencies or people can bring viable information, they should also be rewarded. Now, if, for example,
and protected.
Of course.
Now, if this, for example, these arms.
Do you think we have a witness protection?
These arms that are coming now, if you look at the value, you could in this way sensitize an agent who is not part of the game to give information against his own group of against custom officials. So I think that's something that we need to.
That's the way intelligence works. Sure. Mr. Olawale, thank you very much for holding on. Mr. Olawale from ALIMOSHO, good morning.
Good morning, Yori. How are you?
Thank you very much for calling in. I'm good.
Family, and my regards to everyone over there.
Thank you.
My regards too.
Why, the reason why I called this morning, I want to know that particular container that arrived at the port, is it owned by a ghost?
Well, we have an importer. It's a question I understand. He's asking for the consignee.
Yeah.
What we have is just the importer for now. We have the importer and the clearing agent.
The importer and the clearing agent, why are they not shown together with all the ammunition? So Nigeria will see those that want to damage Nigeria. Because I'm really wondering, before such 661, imagine Yori was brought to a city or a state. Would that state, anybody would still be alive in that state? That state will become a ghost state. Because I don't know what they want to use this for. Is it for the Nigerian army or for the Boko Haram or for personal use?
Exactly.
I don't know why Nigerians are so wicked. They will go to 661 from action into this economy we are talking about now.
Indeed.
Why are these people? I expected the journalists and the Nigerian customs to show us those that are behind it, both the agents and the importers.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Olawale. I don't know why they went paraded alongside the equipment, but there is this thing going. You know, there are suspects. So they are suspects, and you don't want to damage anybody in the.
No. Apart from that, parading them also might frustrate your investigation. Because if I am the owner of those containers and I know somebody that I contracted and is paraded on TV, immediately I will know that this man
there's
is.
a link to. So there are all sorts of reasons. The authorities probably know what they're doing in that regard. So it comes back to this matter about how serious we want to get about this. It's one thing to ask your men in uniform all over the place, whatever the formation, customs, navy, police, anywhere. But it's another thing to give them the assurance that when they do their job, nobody will come and undo it, which often happens.
I attended a seminar on automation of expatriate quota in Nigeria. And then one of the immigration officers that came said that there are some problems they have, that you go for enforcement, monitoring and enforcement, because that's a big problem. And if you check very well, the monitoring and enforcement unit of the Nigerian custom that probably pounded this truck now. You go for monitoring and enforcement, and then you get into an office, the next thing, your phone rings. Yes. And the big man asks you, where are you?
This is
what you are in so and so place. Said, who sent you there? Even with the Navy, in some cases, they tell you they are patrolling, and then you meet a barge that is loading crude oil. And then immediately your commander asks you what position, and you say so and so nautical miles. They will send you there.
So we're working at cross
day,
purposes. I've got to go on this break now, but stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, please. Welcome back, and I understand Simon is on the line from AJ City here in Lagos. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Uncle Yeri.
Thank you very much for calling in.
God bless you. In short, I am very, very bitter of this country, Nigeria. Because what is happening in this country, Nigeria, we have law. And law is not effective, which is too bitter. One, before these ammunition enter into this country, somebody must have ordered it. And how does it enter into this country? And people are claiming that these materials were ordered from another country. Why does it make sense to have entered into this country? And a thorough investigation must be made. One, and the people who did it and dictated all these things must be rewarded. Another thing, and they must be protected. Again, another investigation must be made thoroughly. Many of these things might have entered into this country. If we are to make thorough investigation, not only this container, many containers might have entered into this country. We have to make thorough investigation, please. And Nigeria government, they pray every day. They go to their knees, and pastors are praying. Okay. How does it affect prayers on this country, Nigeria?
All right then. Well, thank you very much for calling in. Appreciate your call. So who exactly is the consignee? In other words, who owns this? All we have is the name of the importer given as Oscar Okafor, according to newspaper reports, and then the clearing agent is given as Mahmoud Hassan. And then there was one unfortunate chap who is labeled an escort, whatever that means, Sadiq Mustafa.
For all you know, because if you look at the reports, the container also contains diapers and household items and
drinks.
For all you know, the information given to the importer is, oh, we have this container with household items, drinks, and diapers. So including the custom also, the information that they have.
It's possible.
And then,
investigations will bring all of this thing out.
It now takes the third eye, which is the scanner, for the custom to reveal that, no, what you declared on paper.
And so that's where I think we want to end, because we have precious little time left. This whole matter where the customs boss, Hamid retired, Colonel Hamid retired, has said, forthrightly, that the scanners are not working. Now that's a cause for concern, and that can be fixed. It's just a matter of somebody has to prioritize it, bring it out from wherever it is in the queue. You can't have a soldier without a gun. You can't have a customs service without a scanner. How many thousands of those things will be passing? And what they do around the world, of course, is spot checking. Even with scanners, they will spot check still. But you can imagine this. Now, what the colonel was saying there was that, look, I've instructed my men now. It doesn't matter how long it takes. I can understand him wanting to be thorough. But here we are thinking about foreign direct investment. Importers, businessmen are watching all of this. It doesn't give much confidence to hear these things that we're hearing. I understand there's another call coming in. Hello, is it a Mr. or Mrs. Toyin calling in from Ikorodu? Is that a guy or a girl? It's a man.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Please, on this issue, I first of all thank you for bringing this issue come out this morning. So what I observe in this issue is that I heard the Comptroller General said that the scanning is not working. Then why, if the scanning is not working, why don't you employ, at least they're supposed to have the record of the container that is they are given to the owner for the whole day, for the less in a month. They're supposed to have how many containers they have delivered to the owner for a month. Then another thing is that why don't you why they are not employ another people for checking the container? Maybe they should all the load that is inside the container, they should transfer it into another container. Then let them deliver it for the owner so that they will know how many, if there is any arms on that container, we should know.
All right, then.
Because all this issue that is happening now is affecting those with Nigeria.
Okay. Well, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Toyin. I'm sure the authorities know what to do. But one thing he said in there, I imagine that the investigation is going to take them back. Now, this Oscar Onwundiwe, who is, I beg your pardon. My friend just came into my mind because I do have a friend who is so-called. This Oscar Okafor. No doubt investigators are going to now look at his history, what he's been importing in the recent past. They know how, this is routine. They know how to go about that. I just hope that it's a one-off, even though I'm a bit doubtful. But this is a problem. Yes, Colonel.
No, I was going to say, what is key is that those officials who all approved the consignment to go in, there should be no excuse to say that they wouldn't know, because the way these things work is that for such an equipment to have gone through many countries, arms in this age, the customs would have been informed, because countries help each other. Customs would have been, somebody must have been informed in the customs. So in other words, it's very critical to show that there must have been some conspiracy.
Some degree of collusion.
Collusion.
Is
because there's no way arms would have passed through China, Turkey, and that Nigerian customs would not have been informed.
I see. So these are things to know. Ishak is in Jos. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
I'm Ishak Iwa Imam. I'm calling from Jos.
Sorry, Ishak. Please go ahead.
Ishak Iwa, I'm calling from Jos.
Okay.
I think I'm worried. It's only God that is protecting us in this country. Imagine 661 pop action rifles that was discovered. Imagine if that rifle had gotten into wrong hands.
Yes.
We imagine the kind of damages, the loss of life, destruction of loss of life that those arms would have done. I think this 661 is just a tip of an iceberg, because I believe there are still many more arms that were not discovered, that is presently in the hands of maybe terrorists or criminals, etc. So I want to appeal to custom authority and the federal government to please go deep, investigate this matter deeply, and bring to book all those culpable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ishak, for calling in. Appreciate your call. Really do appreciate your call. Sorry to rush you a bit. Here we have the situation now. Whoever the owner, consignee, actually is, the question then comes up, what do you want to do with it? It has to be, this can't be armed robbers deciding to upgrade their tools. No, it can't be. So the suspicion that this is politically motivated, it can't just be blown away.
You see, I told you something. I said that when people talk about a nation failing, and then you hear people all over the country, there's one crisis or the other. All over. And so you hear now people saying it is time for you to defend yourself. All of these are statements you should not also just gloss over, you know, because it starts from statements such as that. And then it's not just about politics now. Also, you have consistently heard some people say, look, that there's need that, this country has failed them. And so when you put all of this together, there's need for us now to rise to the occasion and ask questions. Where have we failed? How do we ensure that will decentralize the processes so that it becomes easier for us to monitor.
Indeed.
Imagine, sorry, quickly, just a few seconds. Imagine if the patrol teams were as unpatriotic as the ones that cleared the container. Only God knows what would have happened. And so, just the same way you have all of these arms causing mayhem in some part of the country, or all of the part of the country, that's the same way these ones, or the ones that had gone in.
Although we don't know who exactly was being patriotic and who was just being slack. Investigations will bring all of this out.
That is, but if it brings out.
If this is not going to get us being serious, I don't know what will. And I imagine they're going to have to extend the dragnet now that they found this happening at the Apapa port and was, accidentally, fortuitously intercepted along the Lagos-Apapa Expressway. They probably now have to check all other import areas, the airports to anywhere.
No. I think what is important is that I'm surprised people are saying that I think there's much more arms already in the country. Yeah. And this is why this point of, I cannot overemphasize the point of tenfold employment of our graduates as intelligence agents is very key, so that people can inform on people who have arms around their corner and their locality.
And be protected.
Yeah, of course.
It's very, very important.
Yes, it is. Sure.
So we've completely run out of time now, but thank you very much, Colonel Tony Inyam, retired security consultant, and Barrister Libros Oshoma, public affairs analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing, with a fresh edition of the program. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.